Hello, this is my field work for that I'll be presenting through video for my field work and in looking for a place of mercy. I believe that was kind of what was asked for this particular field work is I went to um, a music ministry that was held by the church that I work for, Lake Avenue Church, and this music ministry is called Instruments of Praise, and it's particularly for children, kind of looking at the youth at risk and helping them find talents, things that they enjoy through music by being able to kind of contribute to their community by making performances and kind of using them in a, kind of like helping them to grow as healthier individuals and not let them kind of be faded away into labels or into places where they could fall through the cracks, and especially in the education system. Just letting you know a little bit history of, or not history, I guess, but information about the Pasadena area where Lake Avenue Church is located here in California. As there's a lot of kind of very like a very wide range of people who are very wealthy versus people who are very poor, and particularly it's like right at the divide of the freeway, which is really interesting. I think you might have heard of this, where the south of the freeway, the 210, is filled with a lot of wealthier families of Pasadena, whereas the north of Pasadena is filled with a lot more poor, low-income families that we actually see a very mix of both in the Lake Avenue Church community, which is very interesting. And Lake Avenue Church has done a lot in terms of trying to reach out to those neighborhoods that are literally right in their backyard, using the kind of the opportunities and kind of what they hold and the gifts that they have, so that they can actually give and give out mercy to those who need it. So Instruments of Praise, as I mentioned, they particularly help the youth at risk in the neighborhood. And some of the things that they offer are singing lessons, piano lessons, music lessons, and they do a performance, I think, twice within a year. So it's really cool. When I visited on a Wednesday night when they were doing practices, they had maybe a group of 8 to 10 students. They would do individual lessons with like 4 different teachers and like do a rotation every 15 minutes. So it's actually I think it's kind of smart that the way they did it, because instead of spending an hour with one teacher, it's very fast paced, which could be beneficial for the students who like to constantly moving versus I guess it could be maybe harder to build that rapport with the teachers and the children. But I thought that was really interesting because I've never seen that kind of that kind of style play out. So I went to observe and help out in whatever way I could. I came in as knowing that I am a counselor at Lake Avenue Church, and wanted to see if there was anything that I can do to refer these children, in particular that teachers needed extra help with, to maybe a group therapy or an individual therapy that these kids can be offered with. So, I was able to kind of get involved with that. I decided to volunteer for just helping out this ministry that they were looking for some extra like assistance with some of the kids that had particular like, behavioral issues and whatnot. So, my experience there was really good. I thought the kids were all really bright. I think they were a little shy to see me at first, just because they didn't know that they were having a visitor and they're going to be watched and whatnot. But for the most part, the kids, they range from anywhere from 6 years old to actually there was a student, well, I don't know if I should say student, but an older gentleman up to 40 years old that actually was getting lessons, which I thought was really cool because I was expecting just kids, but the teachers were explaining how this one gentleman, he had a mental illness, and he just needed a place to kind of get involved and wanted to learn music. And so actually through this music ministry, he's been with them for, I think, like years. I don't want to like give you a wrong estimate, but I want to say almost 10 years with them. And he's apparently developed a lot and grown a lot personally, being able to use music as a way for him to express himself, especially and as he's going through kind of treatment with his mental illness as well. I thought it was really cool. Very much open. The teachers are very welcoming, warm, but yet strict at the same time because it is a music like a teaching like a music lesson. So when they're teaching piano or whether they're teaching chords or music, um, they're very much like you need to do your homework, you need to get these things done. If you don't, then you can't be improved, you can't approve. But then I think the way they do it is really cool because the kids like they want to learn, they want to get better, and so they totally encourage them to do what they want, but be able to start learning like the specific things about music that are basic to know. Most of the kids I saw there are mostly Hispanic and Black, so which makes sense because I know north of Pasadena, that's kind of most of the population. Even Pasadena School District is very much, it's kind of on the lower end in terms of, I think, where their rating is. And so they have a lot of low-income families that go to Pasadena, a lot of the schools around here, and a lot of kids at risk that experience violence. They experience a lot of neglect at home, just whether it's like parents, violence among parents, um, and even just peer like exposure to alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, the case. And so I think this ministry being a place where like a safe haven for kids to come, not only learn music, but be able to be at a place where they can be themselves, learn music and use that as a place to have an outlet. I thought that's really cool because a lot of these kids are super comfortable. They're comfortable with each other. It's like a family. And so I thought that's really cool to see. And I thought that's, as a way for the teachers to really not only look at them as the child learning music, but really holistically, of how can not only we help them become better, maybe musicians, but also help them to not go along the tracks of what a lot of youth at risk end up becoming, whether it's getting incarcerated at the end or ending up in was a certain type of mental illness or whatever it is, but to like prevent that. It's a lot more of a prevention ministry for the children. All these teachers that teach the kids are all volunteers. They kind of just use their gifts as music and give that to the community. I really think that what comes to mind in terms of reading is the Andrew Kirk reading that we did when he specifically talks about justice and the poor, and how God is not against the poor. He isn't. What was it? He's not against the poor. He's not above the poor, but he's with the poor and for the poor. He mentions that towards the end as he specifically talks about how we are, as a church, are able to care for the poor. And with that in mind, Kirk also mentions that what we do as a church is for the people who are vulnerable, for instance, here is the children at risk, to give them, because they don't have a lot of natural protection within community, that the community, like the church, is needs to be responsible for these group of people, and because of the precarious position in which they find themselves in. And so I think this ministry is a very good example of that. And I'm excited to see where this ministry goes and how these kids really, where they end up. Just to give you an example of some of the things that are also happening other than the older gentleman, there's this one 6-year-old girl that I watch, and apparently she had a lot of behavioral issues in terms of aggression, but through music, apparently the teacher shared with me that she is literally 180 degrees of where she is now, being able to use music, specifically actually drums, as a way to express herself and use her kind of her energy in a healthier way versus, um, yeah, in the ways that she would maybe hurt others. So just a little bit of what's going on and how I experienced this ministry in particular, this ministry of mercy that I believe is, yeah, taking part in their community. So thanks.